welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. I'm your host Ben Porter, and I'm joined this week by Mark Mckinnon of Wreck and Ruin fame.
Hello everybody, how you doing?
The title's stuck forever, I think.
That's it, yeah, I'm not getting rid of it.
Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about annoying gaming habits.
Yes, and we all know there's plenty out there.
Yeah, we don't have any of them, of course.
Of course not, no. Don't be rude.
There are several we could probably think of between us that do annoy us, but we're just a different class of player.
Yeah, I'd just like to think maybe it's a gentleman's sport.
Yeah, and we are gentlemen, so we definitely don't do anything that rubs people up the wrong way.
No, definitely not. No.
So we're gonna talk about that a bit later, but first of all, you've not long come back from the bloody fields of Kickstarter.
Yep, it was a battle which unfortunately I lost.
Yeah.
Did take out quite a few. I left some warriors in my wake, lying dead on the battlefield, but unfortunately, yep.
Yeah.
I lived to fight another day, but this was not my crowning achievement.
Yeah. So you weren't far off. Weren't far off your goal.
No, so I finished 12,000 out of 15.
Yeah.
So it was about 80%.
Yeah.
It was, so yeah. I was quite happy still with the figure.
Yeah, a valiant effort. Yeah.
When you still think it's £12,000 that complete strangers have offered to give me to make something
for your idea.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you have to look at it. You know, I might not have funded this time, but it's still an achievement in itself.
So what's the plan? What's the next step?
Hit it again. Hit it harder.
Yeah.
So potentially reducing the goal. I'm thinking of reducing the cost. More advertising. As you've probably seen on the page, I've also got commission more artwork as well. So I wanted to change that to make it look a bit nicer. And I'm thinking about additional things that I can add into the campaign for, additional pledge levels, and also just things that people might be interested in adding on to the experience. So
Wreck and Ruin, bigger, badder, slightly kinder to your wallet.
Yes, but not to the environment. still gas guzzling, but
yeah. I'll look forward to it. But so we were talking a little bit about Kickstarters and a recent trend that you'd noticed.
Yeah, so recently I've noticed that there's been there's more posts showing up on Facebook. I've noticed mainly that campaigns aren't doing as well as the creators thought, so they've just pulled the plug on them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's part and due, as we were saying earlier, to the fact that, I mean, I thinking back to when I first happened upon Kickstarter in about 2012, 2013, I think.
Yeah.
There's just a plethora of tabletop games compared to back then.
Definitely.
So it's a far more competitive environment than it's ever been. And I don't think that looks set to let up. But what is it you think specifically that's causing people to just pull the plug on these projects?
So I'm not sure exactly what it is now. Everyone wants their campaign to fund quickly, in order to get enough momentum, basically, to carry them way past their initial targets. So that's the ultimate aim. But really, Kickstarter should be about funding, and whether you fund by 100%, whether you fund by 500%, you should still be happy enough with the 100%. Now, I've not looked into enough of these campaigns to know if it's just that they weren't reaching funding, or some of them just weren't getting the momentum that they needed, which is a different issue, really. But yeah, I hope it's not a thing that we're going to see a lot more of.
So one of the ones that we spoke about, I'm not sure if they've pulled the plug on it exactly, but I think it's Dark Hand Games that made Beneath.
Yeah, so
they did a huge advertising push in the run up to that.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video for it run up, and you'd think it was a computer game that was coming out ahead. 4 little dwarf miners. It was blowing each other up.
Really impressive advertising campaign, actually, because like you said, they'd gone above and beyond for advertising an analog game. They actually had digital animation.
Yeah, exactly. It was like watching an intro to a game.
Yeah,
and so they put in the work.
Oh yeah.
So I can't see any fault with what they've done to get it to where they are, but I don't know what it is that's causing this, causing them to do it. I don't know if it's maybe backers are more discerning now. Maybe they're
a bit more discriminating in their tastes, or I think price is a huge issue. We spoke about it recently, Craig Ross and myself, on the podcast, the price creep in board games.
Yeah,
and a lot of it is definitely coming from Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter audience just simply demands huge volumes of stuff.
Yeah.
These Kickstarter games, they're very component heavy. A lot of the time they've got huge amounts of sometimes massive, highly detailed miniatures. I mean, you backed Rising Sun, right? That's a humongous game with some stunning miniatures in it, has to be said. And I think from all accounts, actually, one of the common complaints with the Cool Mini or Not games is that
all plastic and no substance.
Yeah, but Rising Sun's been getting really good reviews. But I mean, I say all that to say that obviously off the back of the success of like Steamforged Games and Cool Mini or Not and Mantic and those sorts of companies, people, in order to cater to the Kickstarter audience, they're making their games bigger, they're making them fluffier, they've got more components.
They think that's what backers want,
and they're trying to sell these very expensive games, and sometimes as a Kickstarter consumer, you're having to choose which £80 game it is you want to back this month.
And £80 on Kickstarter, I would say, is still quite reasonable. I think it was
well, you start talking about add-ons and all that.
Is it the Confrontation one that's just started now? And I think the base pledge for that is £230. And it does come with 210 miniatures or something like that, but do you need all that?
Yeah. The opposite end of the spectrum is there's a solo game on Kickstarter at the moment called Unbroken.
Yeah.
And it's at like 2,700% funded, because a copy of the game's £16.
Yeah. And also I think people underestimate the solo market.
Yeah.
I don't think people realise just how many people actually enjoy playing games like that, and not a lot of games and put part of that in as the core experience.
I mean, there's a whole blog dedicated to Both Sides of My Table, which I think a lot of our listeners are maybe familiar with, and he produces content where his focus is more or less solely upon solo gaming.
Yeah.
So it's, as you say, there is a demand for it.
I think Kickstarter creators are maybe starting to tap into that now, but perhaps didn't realise that it was such a gold mine that they could get into. So
going back to these projects that people are pulling the plug on when they don't look as though they're going to fund, because this is the thing, is like sometimes they're maybe only about a week in, and I guess they were maybe expecting, with the amount of effort and they've put into advertising and promotion, I think Beneath's a really good example that we can use in this, because it's not even close to funding. I think it's maybe like 25%, just below that,
right.
if that. I think it might be lower than that. Hold on. Right, okay, so
8%.
Beneath 8% funded with 19 days to go.
Yeah, so something's going wrong there. But that's part of the game as well with Kickstarter.
So it's setting realistic expectations.
So it needs to be a goal that backers feel is achievable, that can be surpassed to get more content. But you also can't set it too low, because they're not stupid and they'll say you can't make that game for £1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to set something that's achievable, but also the backers feel is realistic.
Yeah.
So how much is the actual pledge for it then?
So to a pledge for Beneath is £79 basic, with shipping charged after the campaign, which is standard, but it does mean that all in all you're probably looking at £100+ to get a copy of Beneath. So I think certainly part of what's contributing to this slump in the Kickstarter market, as it were, this or at least what
pattern.
Yeah, I think the rising costs of Kickstarter board games is a huge deterrent for people.
Yeah. So there's certain rules that you need to follow when you're pricing a game. So first of all, it needs to be that you can make it. First of all, within the funds that you've allocated for it, which sounds stupid, but yeah, it needs to be done. It needs to cover all the money basically to get the game into the countries, so import tax, all that kind of stuff. You shouldn't ever really build profit into a campaign. A campaign's not about you making money, it's about you making the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you should make the cost of the pledge should be enough to cover what you need.
Yeah.
You can also, there is also a part of that is to do with where it sits in the market, what games, the same amount of components or whatever would go for. There can be an element of that, but ultimately, if your game's not worth the price that you've put on it, then something's going wrong. Either you can't do it within the scale of manufacture that you've got, or else you're just being unrealistic and or greedy.
It's quite interesting you mentioned worth there, because one of the other things that you said to me before we started recording was that there was a discussion in one of the Kickstarter groups you were in.
Yes.
That mentioned that is there a perception amongst backers that a game that's just scraped its funding goal is somehow worthless? So
unfortunately, there's a bit of a misconception with Kickstarter in that a game that doesn't fund well or quick, the backers believe that, or not backers, but the Kickstarter audience in general directly links that to how good the game is.
Yeah.
So if a game hasn't funded straight away or quick enough, there's something wrong with that game.
We talk about voting with our wallets, don't we? So I guess in some ways, maybe Kickstarter's a bit of an indicator of that.
Yeah, so understand, I was heavily involved in Kickstarter before I even thought of creating. So I got Super Backer within 6 months of signing up to Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So, I'm in the same boat as everyone else. I want to get as much as I can for my money.
You're working up towards writing an article on Reddit about your Kickstarter addiction, like that guy.
But I've never cancelled a pledge I've ever made, because when I back a project, it's because I decide that I am accepting that if that game funds, that I'm happy with the core product, and anything else I get is a bonus, but you need to be happy when you back that. If that's all you're getting, you think it's worth that money.
It's quite admirable that that's your attitude to it. I mean, I've cancelled a number of pledges over the years, mostly because I didn't have as much money as I thought I did at the start of the month.
That's fair enough. That's different.
And then when that goal approaches, okay.
Yeah,
right.
that's circumstances are always going to come in to affect that. But for a backer to cancel out because you aren't going to reach a specific stretch goal, when they've already got 20 stretch goals.
Do people seriously do that? Like, if you don't get that one stretch goal they wanted, I'm gone.
So, like with my game, when I ran the campaign the first time round, people were saying that they weren't going to back it until I'd unlocked all the sculpts or what they wanted. Now,
right.
I could have set up the campaign to have all that included as the main game, but would have effectively almost doubled my funding goal, and that's another issue with Kickstarter. In that,
so it all comes back to this thing of there definitely is a huge group of people out there observing the Kickstarter market and just do not want to commit until they have the security of a big herd of people having already invested.
Yes, so there's a misconception that with the game not having enough backers behind it to push it way beyond goals, that there's something wrong with it, and therefore it's not worth their money.
Yeah.
So a game, there's every possibility of a game funding within the first couple of hours, but there's also games that just fund and no more at the end of the campaign, which is fine. Kickstarter's about creating that. It doesn't matter about the stretch goals. Well, Kickstarter in its purest form is for that purpose, but unfortunately it feels like it's kind of detracted a bit from that, and probably the bigger companies that perhaps don't need to use it have a bit of accountability for that, because if they're offering all this stuff and they're funding, we funded within 8 minutes.
Well, they're creating a level of expectation within the consumers there then, and it is these big companies that are dictating the Kickstarter market. It's them that have created this trend towards very expensive component heavy games. So
they've contributed towards smashing through stretch goals like nobody's business. High quality, which is good. It's good for the market, but it also means that the little guy has also got to pick up the slack as well. So no longer can you go in with just an idea. It has to be at a near final stage.
Yeah.
So if you go into Kickstarter saying you need money for the artwork, or I need money to playtest this, dead in the water. You're not going to get anywhere with that.
I mean, to a certain extent, Kickstarter's always been like that. But I hear what you're saying. I think that, as we've just said, I think people's expectations of Kickstarter projects are higher than they've ever been.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I do think Kickstarter, it's almost a bit of a misnomer, Kickstarter, because it's not like you're going in to pitch your idea. It's, here's my product, I need the money to get it distributed or on shelves.
So it's strange, it's not quite Dragon's Den, it's not quite a shop. It's somewhere in between, but because it's maybe not as clearly defined, that's maybe why it's such a grey area in general.
I think so. Well, in other news, I picked up the new warbands for Shadespire, and you had your first foray into Shadespire tonight.
I tried it today.
Yeah, so I'm on this crusade to try and convert people to playing Shadespire, because I just think there's not enough people playing Shadespire.
And nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and it's a phenomenal game. So, I mean, how did you find it?
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I enjoy miniatures.
Yeah.
I enjoy cards. The fact that it has that kind of hidden information is good. On that scale, is quite unusual, I think, for a game like a kind of typical skirmish game. You maybe have some objectives or something like that, but there is a lot more information available, whereas that was quite, with the deck, and even with the fact that although you've created the deck, your opponent doesn't necessarily know what's in it, and definitely doesn't know what you've got in your hand.
Yeah.
So all that stuff just makes it so much more interesting, and
it's quite exciting,
intense,
isn't it? Yeah. Because you just, like you say, you just don't know what.
Yeah.
And where the game starts off quite slow.
Well,
like that last turn we had, it was just like ploy card after ploy card.
That's what I was going to say. The first couple of the first couple of actions when you said, right, well, now you can play a card, and I was like, I don't see the value in playing a card. And then we had that just one action where we both played 2 cards each, and just like set ourselves up for, like, I was going for a massive attack while you had like a lightning defense kind of combo going on.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to have that, but I think where the game's going to shine is the fact that 2 players can have the same warband and have a different deck and play completely differently.
When Josh and myself went to Common Ground, like way back in February, I think it was February or March, Josh has been running Sepulchral Guard, which is the undead faction.
Yeah.
And there was a lad there at the event we went to who was running Sepulchral Guard, and his deck was completely different from Josh's, and he played them in a completely different way.
Because like you'll find a game like Magic where once certain combos are worked out, they'll appear in everybody's deck.
Yeah.
And you'll find that the majority of, you'll be facing the same deck against different people all the time. Whereas with that, you can play it so many different ways that you can do all these different combinations and it'll work.
I think, it's worth saying as well that Magic is a very two-dimensional game, whereas
it's just the cards.
It's the fact that you've got this dynamic 3D tabletop combat situation going on with cards influencing what happens. So it means that there's room for a lot more variation within that.
Yeah.
Even though Magic's got way more cards.
Oh yeah.
It does mean, as you say, that especially when you introduce competition rules that restrict the use of certain cards.
Yeah.
It's one of the major arguments against competition rules is that they essentially force people to take the same build if they want to be competitive.
Yeah, because they know what works, and if you're going to play a game, then what's the point in making a card that you can't use?
Exactly.
That it's crazy.
Yeah. But,
if they know it's OP, if we know it's OP, why is it even in there?
Yeah. We could that's a whole other thing. We could do a whole episode about competition rules and composition, but the all-important question, in my opinion, when you try a new game, would you play it again?
Yes, I'd play it again. Yeah. I'd be interested to see the different cards even within my own deck.
Yeah.
Never mind, before even looking at other factions. Now, the issue I had, which you found out, was that to me, a minis game is about bashing you over the head repeatedly. So the cards took a bit of adjustment.
Yeah.
For me, I was more just charging in, attacking. I just wanted you dead. Didn't care what the card said.
Yeah.
So that took a bit of adjusting to me, just purely because that's how those games normally play out.
Well, I mentioned that I'd picked up the 2 new warbands. So they are Magor's Fiends.
Yes.
They're another Khorne warband, but these guys are the big roided out guys.
Yeah.
Covered
Chaos
in baroque
Warriors.
armour. Yeah, whereas the other guys were more Marauders or Blood Reavers, as they're called in Age of Sigmar. They're your battle line plebs. And then the other warband's the Farstriders, I think, which they're Stormcast, but these are the sort of Stormcast Rangers, if you were.
Yeah.
And they've all got bolt pistols, which is a ranged weapon. But I think Magor's Fiends are going to be your jam, because they're very killy, and they've got a lot of stuff that messes with movement and things like that, and they've got a flesh hound.
You should have just started with that.
Yeah, I know.
Now, one of my favourite old 40k models was the Corn Juggernaut. Now, if you could give me one of them on there, I'd be sold.
Well, I mean, he's not got a Juggernaut, but I mean, Magor might as well be riding one.
Yeah, well,
he's definitely got the armour for it.
I'm sure we can. We'll do some kind of house ruling on it. We'll get our own rules made up for a Juggernaut on there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could like proxy a Juggernaut as the flesh hound or something if you're determined to have one on there.
I liked the old Juggernaut wound table. Basically it was dead. It got like stabbed through the brain, but just didn't realise it was dead yet, and it still proceeded to run about attacking and killing people.
Yeah, it's like they always talk about how there's a type of gorilla that you can shoot it in the head, but it still has time to like chase you down, kill you, and eat you. It's like it's too angry to die, I guess.
It's like that Itchy and Scratchy episode where he reads the paper and it says, "Newsflash, you need a heart to live." And he'd been like walking about for 20 minutes without a heart, and then it wasn't until he realised that he just keels over.
So I think we need to get you trying out the Fiends.
Yeah, well, I think especially for a game, it's quite a cheap buy-in for that kind of system, and
even I think compared to a lot of other card games and living card games, it's a cheap buy-in, because you take. I mean, I've started playing Arkham Horror. It's about 30 quid for the core set, and then for one expansion, the core expansion, that's 25, and then along with that expansion you have 6 Mythos packs, and they're £13 each.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 cycles out already, so if you're playing catch up with that, that's hundreds.
For that price, that's everything that's ever been made for Shadespire.
Yeah.
So that's you bought everything.
Yeah, you're up to date.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, like you say, it's great value for money. It's like, because it's about £40 for a core set, and then about £15-17 for each of the expansions.
Yeah, and there's, unlike other games where sometimes feels like you have to get the expansions, with that it's literally your choice whether you want to have.
I mean, people that are serious about it will want access to all the cards.
Yeah,
but
of course,
as you say, like you know, if you just want to play orcs,
you just
get the core set and the orcs,
and that's it. You're ready to go.
Yeah, but yeah, I imagine we'll probably be playing that again in the future.
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm a bit disappointed you hadn't painted them, but apart from that,
don't talk about that. I've got so much stuff still to paint, but. Anyway, so topic of the week: annoying gaming habits. So what's your pet peeve?
Well, as a game designer, one of the things I have to do is do a lot of rules explanations. So whether it's my own game or whether I'm showing up any game, it's usually me within the group that becomes the rules explainer. And there's nothing worse than when somebody's not paying attention and they're playing on their phone, and then they come round.
I feel like this is directed at me.
No. It's directed at somebody, Samuel. But
I will say I don't always do that. I was doing Instagram stuff when Mark was starting to explain a game we were playing tonight, but
no, that was another issue that we had there. That wasn't attention. So yeah, like when somebody's not paying attention, looking at their phone, it's bad when it comes round to their turn.
This is a really common thing seen role playing games like D&D. Like if the other players aren't interacting with a non-player character or the dungeon master,
they're not interested.
They'll just be on their phones or their iPads and all that. And like the first few times I saw it, I thought, this is really rude. But loads of them do it.
Yeah. So it is rude. Like, as a creator, one of the things I'm looking for is, if I'm demoing a game, the last thing I want to see is somebody pulling out their phone, because it means they're not engaged enough in the game. So, maybe I'm a bit more attuned to it than other people, but I've played games, simple, quick-fire games, camel up, and when it takes you 10 minutes to take your turn, you're literally doing one action. And you have to explain what all the actions are every time.
Yeah.
There's there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
So there's nothing more annoying than that. Or when you've done something and then somebody just looks up from whatever they're doing and said, "How did you just do that?" And then you basically have to backtrack and explain your whole move to them because they weren't paying attention to it in the first place. You're like, well, I've got this, it allows me to move here, and then I've got this stat which does this.
So you end up explaining the rules like 3 and 4 times.
So you explain the rules and you end up basically taking your turn twice.
Because you have
just to appease this one person.
You have to walk them through everything.
Meanwhile, everyone else is like that.
So, anyone that knows me will know that there are a lot of things that irritate me. But I have to say, in gaming terms, the thing that irritates me the most is a thing called flicky dice, smashy model. Right, so you know what I'm talking about. Like, when playing against people that can't just roll the dice like a normal person.
Yeah, and drop them in front of themselves.
Or, no, it's more like, see when they do that flourish? So that the dice flies up in the air and then skates right through a big group of intricately painted models. It's like, people spend dozens, sometimes hundreds of hours painting these things, and then these twats rock up to the board and they start chucking dice around like a 4-year-old.
All blasé.
Yeah, no, not okay.
Every single convention I've done, probably within a kind of 3-4 hour cycle, you have to stop the game to pick dice up off the floor, because there's always somebody that just can't contain the dice within this, well, we say 6 foot square area that you have. Somehow that's not enough to contain this little 12mm bit of plastic.
Yeah.
And it has to somehow be skited across.
Yeah, like if you have a problem with that, get a dice tray.
Yeah.
It's like dice trays, they're like the tabletop gaming equivalent of a bib though, aren't they? It's like you plonk that down in front of someone.
The bumper lanes that when you go bowling.
Yeah, that's for you. Oh.
So I mean, you could literally, if I'm rolling lots of dice, I cup my hands together, shake my hands, and then I just open them like bomb doors, like a bomb trap door, and they fall out underneath me, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they land pretty much.
Yeah, there you go. And there are loads of games where you do have to roll loads of dice, and that's the way to do it. Just give them a wee shake, and then just drop them. The
whole point of shake is just to randomise the result.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with speed or distance.
Yeah. You're not trying to destroy half the models on the table.
It's not a dexterity game.
No. So stop flicking dice. Not cool. So the other one that really annoys me is see when you're playing card games and you get people that'll like flick the cards like that. Like really quickly. Have you never seen people do this?
I don't think so.
So like Magic players do it a lot. Like when they're thinking about what they want to do, they'll just like flick through the cards, and then like when it's your turn, it's like it's some weird sort of attention thing. Like can you not sit still for 2 minutes and let me do this?
Yeah.
And it's So it means that you're sitting there trying to concentrate, and all you can hear is the
fidgeting
of these cards getting flicked around. And it's infuriating.
Yeah. Or what about people that just disrespect your stuff?
Yeah.
Like you bring people round to play the game, and their game's sacrosanct, but your game like
they take the cards and then go to do an Indian shuffle with them.
Yeah. Riffle them and everything, and and you're just like, dude.
Yeah.
This cost me money.
Yeah. You're like, excuse me, did I come to your house and jump on your couch? why are you disrespecting my property?
Yes. So that is another part of it. The disconnect between a game that doesn't belong to them and how they treat it.
Yeah.
Is not cool.
That merits a smack, I think. It's like people that, you give them a paperback and then the first thing they do is bend the cover right round.
Oh, just put a big crease right down it.
There's a special place in hell for those people. I'm fairly certain of it. But we mentioned that we were going to do this as a topic on the show just before we come in. And Charlotte wanted me to mention the thing that Josh and myself do in games that drives her nuts, and that is what we do is we explain to each other like what could happen with it and try to predict the next few turns, like to the point like sometimes like we'll give each other suggestions like, why don't you try doing this instead, and it drives Charlotte nuts because she has this whole plan worked out in her head of how to win the game. And we're just like sitting back, unraveling it all by explaining to each other different options you could take in the game.
I mean, it's good that you share that you can see stuff, but I mean, it sounds a bit like I can't remember if it was Big Bang Theory. It might have even been The Simpsons, where they had two people sitting playing chess, and they sat there and said, "Checkmate in 43 moves." Another guy went, "Checkmate in 41." He said, "Good game." You know what I mean? Hadn't even started yet.
Yeah. That's a bit like us when we play games, especially those big sort of resource management games. Like I think it was Enchanters we did it on. Was it you've played Enchanters, haven't you?
No, I haven't. No.
No. Well, it's a card game where you're like forging your own artifacts, but it's one of these ones where you do need to think 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, I'd be rubbish at it.
So like I was thinking of what to do, and then Josh was going, "Oh, why don't you do this and this and this?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then Charlotte just erupted. Like, why are you telling him that?
Yeah.
Because it totally unravelled her whole plan.
But then, if it didn't affect her, would she still have the same reaction? Is it only because it affected her?
Yeah. So who really has the horrible gaming habit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe
I'm in fear of my life now. This is going out there for public consumption.
So yeah, I think there's plenty of bad habits out there now. Most of the tabletop memes that you see are table flipping.
Yeah.
Or that one where the guy Hulk smashes the table into nothing.
I mean, all joking aside, like most of these things are like they're mild irritations,
Yeah, analysis paralysis and things like that annoy you, but you laugh at them and you tell them to get a move on.
And even like the flicky dice thing, like I was playing a game in Games Workshop the other week, and we were all rolling off, and one of the guys did the flicky dice smashy model thing, and I said to him, "You better not do that during the game," and he was like, "No," and that was it.
Nipped in the bud.
It was a non-issue. So that there's there's ways of doing it. And
oh yeah, definitely.
And I think, like you say, it's maybe just being respectful of other people's stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
If you want to Indian shuffle your cards, that's fine, but not everyone's okay with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, were you gonna say something?
Just as long as they're shuffled, that's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
You don't need to Indian shuffle.
No, doesn't need to be fancy.
No, just get the job done.
We're not magicians.
No. Yeah.
Is this your card?
Yeah. We actually had Callum Indian shuffled a deck when we were playing Pandemic, and completely messed up the game because it wasn't so much the Indian shuffle. It was, in Pandemic, you're supposed to have the epidemic cards evenly spaced throughout the deck. He didn't read the instructions for randomising the deck.
So you just shuffled them in right
He just shuffled them all in, so it meant like we got like 3 epidemics in a row, and it's like that's us lost the game. And Josh was so angry. I've never seen Josh so annoyed at someone in a game, because it was Pandemic Legacy, so it meant that all the effects were permanent.
Yeah, you can't come back from that one.
No.
Well, I miscalculated while playing Kingdom Death the other night. and accidentally created the wrong kind of deck for that, which resulted in a total party kill. So we went in a bit blasé with my 4 best characters, who are all now dead.
So Postle is absolutely reeling from that loss now.
Yeah, so Postle's on fire right now.
Postle being the name of Mark's Kingdom Death settlement, and not the area in Glasgow.
Not where we go to play.
Yeah. I think both Postles are quite nightmarish, though, to be honest.
Yeah, well, hopefully Adam Putz is not from Postle, and that's like what he's kind of designed the game around.
Yeah.
Like some areas of Glasgow, but
some of the creatures you don't know.
Yeah. But then there'd be like the Bucky Beast or something like that.
Oh no. You could what effect would Bucky have in the game?
Well, we've got Frenzy Drink, and Love Juice, so it'd probably be both of them together.
Yeah, be like you have completely randomised movement, and then you get like +1 to your attacks or something.
So I would say probably. Well, is Bucky equates to 98% of all alcohol fueled crime. So
is that a fact?
It was a few years ago. I don't know if it's probably went up now.
Yeah. Oh man.
Right. So let's say +5 strength. But then you gain a random disorder.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds about right. Some insanity points.
Oh yeah, all the insanity.
Yeah. So if you've just had Bucky and Slender Man appears, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, well I think that's about all we've got time for in this week's show. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear from you again in the not so distant future.
Yep.
And for all those listening, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. We are Unlucky Frog Gaming, and I am Ben. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also show your support by giving us money through the Unlucky Frog Patreon. And be sure to check out our website, unluckyfrog.com, to find out more.